Hey my crafty creatures, and welcome back to my channel. If it's your first time here, I hope you stay a while and check out all the other videos in this series. In today's video, we're delving into the world of cosplay crafting once again. I'll be taking you through the process of me remaking the boot covers for my Korra cosplay. It's all about adding functional elements like zippers and stabilizer to enhance the overall look and functionality. We have some interesting crafting to explore. Alright guys, so these are the pattern pieces I already have, and this is from when I originally made this costume. So there's a couple of changes that I want to make to this. So I want to straighten out these areas here and maybe along here, as well as this one as well, because I want to try to add a zipper in there, and with the current shape it won't be able to do that. As far as these pieces go, I think they're going to stay the same. I think this one I do have to make a little bit smaller because I just had too much extra fabric when I was sewing everything together to slip over the shoe. This is pretty much good. I think this is the only piece I won't have to change, but I'll have to make some adjustments to these just to make it a bit wider, especially right here in this area. I definitely went a little too tight with that. And with adding the zipper, I don't think it's going to work. But other than that, I think those are the only things that I'm going to be changing about this. So stay tuned to that, and I will show you what the final pattern pieces look like. Okay, so I wanted to kind of give you an idea of how I actually put this on. So this is the shoe that I typically use. It's just a cheap one that I got from Amazon. And what I do is open everything up so that I can put the shoe in there, and then I shove it through. It definitely has some grip, so I have to be mindful of where I'm putting things in it. Okay, so the main thing I have to do is I have to take this part right here off, which is why I really want to change it so that it has a zipper. So I take the shoe and I'll put it in through here and just make sure that all of this part lines up on the bottom. And then I'll pull up the back side of it and then adjust the Velcro pieces on the side so that they line up. And then I take this front flap, put it back through that loop, and then align it there. And then I can actually put my foot in there. And then I'll hold up the sides and put the snaps on, usually starting with the top. And then after I have that, I put this strap there. And then usually I have a top strap, but all of those have kind of broken. This one no longer has the Velcro in it. But I would normally put it here. And then it would be ready to go. But since I didn't do that great of a job like constructing these, it definitely is a struggle getting it on and off and then wearing it throughout the day, because this doesn't really stay in place, so it'll end up falling, or this piece will start flopping over, this will start sagging down. So I need to add that structure in there so that I can actually wear it and not have to worry about it. So with this first piece, I put the pattern underneath the fabric, and I will be tracing out some of the pieces here. So I'll be chasing out this bottom curve because I need that to stay the same. Then I'll be bringing the sides straight up, and I'll be extending this top part a little bit higher, maybe about 1/2 inch, and then I'll be straightening it off and then doing a slight curve similar to the back piece. Okay, so here are all my pieces. I have the 3 pieces that I have changed. I've made this one smaller, and then I scored off of these, and then this one has stayed the same. So we are going to try to sew all of this together and see where we're at. So I'm not sure if I'll be able to explain this correctly, but I have this pattern piece, and I realized that now that I'm going to be putting that zipper in there, I'm going to need a straight part on this piece here. And I realized that there was a curve that these pieces used to overlap in the last one. So I marked that here, and I'm glad I marked that because now I know where I can take it off at. How I determined where I need to put this zipper in at and making sure that I have it in the right spot. So what I did is I took this piece here, the old one, and I marked out the curves onto the new piece. So that ended up being right here and right here. And the reason why I did that is that way I know where that overlap goes. So when I came to this piece, I just made sure that I lined it up with that curve, which is right about here. And then I take that line and I go straight down. So now I know this is the part that I need to cut off for this piece. Now, what I'm going to do is redo this pattern piece and make sure I have those markings, and then I will do that 1/2 inch seam allowance going right along there. So everything will match up the way it should. So this ended up being the wrong decision here, and it was something that I never should have done. I only shouldn't have straightened out that very tip end of this pattern piece because it ended up putting my zipper in the wrong place. You'll see later on that I was having some issue with the alignment of everything, and that's where it went wrong. Okay, so I decided to clip everything together, and it's not going to be easy for me to show you guys this, but I have the bottom sole all clipped together. That is fine. And the side seam is, or the inner seam is matching up the way I wanted to. The thing I was having problems with was this side here, the outer side. And what I realized I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to sew these two sides up separately. And then what I'll probably do is overlap them so that when I sew it to the bottom, they line up correctly. But that is the only thing that I seem to have an issue with. Everything seems like good to go. And I will be able to go ahead and cut this out on the final fabric. And just be mindful that I have to sew the two pieces together first for both these. And then I'll attach it to these, because these I'll only need 2 pieces cut out. But for these 2 pieces, I need 4 pieces cut out. Okay, so I have the 2 fabrics that I am going to use for this. I'm using this one. It's a faux suede that I got from Joann Fabric a while back, and it's just what I had left over. It was enough to do this. So the other fabric I have is this one here, and this one's like a faux vinyl. It has like a coating over top of it, and the coating is not that great of a quality, so I figured this would be good for the bottom of the shoe. And it doesn't have a whole lot of stretch, and I can use this, just not have to worry about it on the bottom. And then this fabric here is like kind of sticky, so I think it'll stick to the grips a lot easier than just doing it with a regular type of fabric. So I'm hoping this will end up working out, because this is a fabric I can't use for anything else as far as clothing wise. So might as well just use it for the soles of these boot covers and any other boot covers I work on. All right, so I went and looked in my stash and I found this interfacing here, and it's not as stiff as I would want it to be, but I think it's going to add just enough of that stability. That way I won't have to worry as much about the fabric flipping over. So I will make sure I put this on at least one side of each of the legs, and hopefully that'll do all I need it to do, but that added zipper should help with that. All right, so when I opened this up, I realized this was about how much I had, and I only had one other piece. So I was only going to be able to cut out 3 pieces. So what I did is I just focused it more so on the front pieces than the back, because the back I want to have a little bit of stretch to go around my calf. So I will just be doing the front with the interfacing. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and iron that on. That way I can get those pieces sewn together. I have quite a bit going on right now. I have already done the front pieces. I've already put the interfacing on and sewn it together. And I noticed when I was sewing it together, the part that did not have the interfacing was moving a little bit. So at the bottom, it's a little uneven, but I think it's still did pretty well. You can see that kind of curve that goes in there when I lay it down. Otherwise, it all went well. I did a top stitch to kind of hold everything in place. So I realized I'm going to have a lot more steps when it comes to sewing in the zipper, just because I didn't think about adding it in on this step. But that's something that I'm going to have to come back to anyways, because I don't have the zipper right now, and I'll need to get that at some point. So what I've gone ahead and done is add a serged edge to this flat edge on the top of the shoe part, and that's just to prepare it to be folded over so that it can be attached to this part here. But right now I am working on the back pieces. So I've sewn in the dart on this piece here, but I still have to do it for the other one. And I've sewn it for here. And I just put a little stitch right here just to hold them in place so that they're going in opposite directions for when I actually sew all the way around it. So that is where I am now. And I'm going to be doing the same thing for this other piece. I'm going to mark out the darts, and then I'm going to sew the darts and then stitch them together. Okay, so now I have this sewn together, and I'm just going to clip these corners here so that when I flip it right out together, it's not going to bunch, and then I can top stitch with ease. Okay, so I have the back pieces done. They are pretty much ready to go. So what I'm going to do is fold over this side and do a top stitch, and then I'm going to attach it to this part here. And I'm going to do my very best. I think over here on this end, I'll also have to do just like a little bit of a top stitch like I do here, just so that it can overlap with this part here. This will be the last part that I do for today, because I still have to go and get that zipper and figure out how I'm going to attach that. So I'll come back tomorrow and you'll see where we're at. Okay, so I have taken the time to pin my zipper to the back of this fabric, and this is the back side, and then I'll attach it to the front side. And what I've decided that I was going to do is hand sew it. Typically I wouldn't want to do this, but I felt like this would give me the best final look. So I've just pinned down the top here, and then I've pinned everything else in alignment so that it comes out straight. As far as the zipper, this was the closest I could get to the color, so I figured that would be good. And it's a little bit longer on the end over here, and I will probably just end up cutting it down here. That way we won't have too much extra in the actual final shoe. Alright, so I switched out my needle for a little bit of a thinner one, and that seems to be working a little bit better for me. So I'm just doing a basic stitch, and I'm going straight in and then poking through the fabric. Okay, well, I guess I went through too many layers here. But it is going through the fabric a lot easier than the other one was before. Okay, so there we go. Move the thread out of the way, and then I'll just pull it through, making sure that I hold the thread a little bit so that it doesn't knot up as it's going through. And then I'll go a little bit further down, poke through the fabric and the tape, preferably not having too much space in between the fabric and where I poke out at. And then I will continue this all the way down to the end of it, and then I will flip over to the front and make sure that this flap is sewn down. And I'll try to make sure that I catch this underside, that way you don't see the stitches on the top. I will continue this process, and I will show you how it looks once I have both the front and back together. Okay, so this did take a lot of finagling and moving things around, but I have the sole of this clipped on, and then I have these two pieces overlapping to make sure that that front piece is on the outside and the back piece is on the inside once I sew it up. But I have everything aligned, and as you can see, I used so many clips because I wanted to make sure everything lined up the way I wanted to. So I'm going to start by sewing around this part here, and to finish it off, I'm just going to overlap these pieces here and then just sew it straight so that it stays in place. All right, so I have gone ahead and marked out where I want the top to stop at. And what I'm gonna do is overlap these pieces, and I'm just gonna stop right here at this point here, because I want this back piece to have a little more stretch so that when I put the shoe on, it has some room to move around in there. So I'm just gonna do a straight stitch going along here, and I'm going to try to match it up with this line that's already here. That way you won't notice it as much. All right, so I made a mistake here, and I need to take out this bottom seam and better align it. Where I align this part at, where that zipper goes, it needs to be further down here, and then it should be correct, because I'm getting a lot of bunching on this side here, and it's kind of pulling it back towards this way, so I need to bring it forward and bring this side back so that it aligns where it's supposed to be, because right now it's just kind of twisting in a weird way, and I want to prevent that from happening. So I'm going to take this apart, re-clip it together, and then sew it, and hopefully that'll come up with a better alignment. Okay, so we are finishing up the base of the boot, and the last thing I have to do is add these grips on here. That way it doesn't slip and slide when I'm walking around. I have this left over from the last time I did these, and they work pretty good, but I need some more because this is all I have left. So I ordered some more, and I'm just going to put this one on here. I've already kind of rounded out the shape because it comes in a complete sheet about this size, and then I've cut it in half and then shaped it so that it will fit here. But I'm going to attach those, and then the last thing I need to do is just add the straps on there. I'm going to leave that part out of here because I'm just like ready to get this done, but I wanted to show you guys this part. And then the straps really is just going to be cutting out the pieces and then hand sewing it on there. It would have worked out better if I did it while I was doing the front and back pieces, but unfortunately I wasn't thinking about that then, so I'm going to be hand sewing it on there. All right, and I have those attached, and what I typically do is just put it on my foot and then just kind of walk around or stand in it for like a minute or so, just to give it a little extra pressure. And the adhesive that they have on there is actually really good and has held up for my other costume. Alright guys, so I wanted to show you a little bit of the process of putting these on. So I unzipped that zipper, and now I can just put my foot with my shoe on in there and then zip it all the way up. Now you'll start to notice that the leg part of it is twisting on me, and that was the issue that I kept on running into, and that goes all the way back to when I cut that part off on the pattern. It just put the zipper in the wrong spot, and all the things were just twisting in the wrong way. But I do have the straps that I'll be adding on to them later, and that will cover up a lot of this that you see. There's definitely a few things that I could have done better with this pattern, but I have the pattern there and I can always make changes to it as needed. So I want to thank you guys for watching. This was definitely a project that had some ups and downs, like most of my projects. But I think this came out very close to what I was looking for. And though I did put some of the lines in some of the wrong spots, it definitely came out the way I was thinking it would. And it added that structure that I needed. And I hope you guys can take this video and learn from it and create something even better than I did. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.